Sam Selsky was a producer of Jean Rollin's film, and Sam was a lovely, lovely man, lovely old gentleman with, he had a lovely Belgian wife and a Belgian stepdaughter who I became very close to the stepdaughter. You know, I used to visit her in Belgium quite a lot before. But Sam was a lovely, he was a really like father to me, and I really loved being around, you know, and his wife also was like a mom. I actually was at Sam Selsky's house one day, and Sam said, I've got this great film for you. And I said, oh God, what is it? And I said, I don't have to take like clothes off again, do I? He said, no, you don't have to. I said, oh, thank God for that. And he said, this is a film written by Jean Rollin called La Rose de Fer. I saw Rollin, and he was very sort of like cantankerous towards me. You know, he said, no, I don't want her. I don't really want her. So Selsky said, yeah, I think you should have her. You really should, because she's going to become big. And, you know, he persuaded Rollin to take me. So Rollin took me, and I really was not his choice at all, because his choice was, I think, the girl who starred with him in all the vampire films that he did. And I was actually sort of like, you know, felt, okay, fine, you don't want me, but you'll see what I'll do with your film. and he changed his mind afterwards, you know, whilst we were working together, he changed his mind. This is a short story that he wrote about La Rose de Fer, which was called La Nuit du Cimetière. And it came from there, you know, the idea for him to do the film came from that little short story. The character that I play is the girl with the boy that meets in the morning at a wedding and decides to take the next day, he falls in love with her, but decides to actually take a little ride to the cemetery. And she actually sort of like, you know, becomes very scared of entering that cemetery. But when she enters that cemetery, she becomes more engulfed, you know, in liking the atmosphere and knowing that the dead people are around her. But she's afraid at the same time. She shows them she's afraid, but she really doesn't want to show him how afraid she is. But then something takes over her. It could be a spirit, it could be anything, you know, takes over her, and she becomes a little mad. She becomes a little bit sort of like she wants to kill her boyfriend to know how it feels to be dead. She wants to see it, she wants to feel that feeling. And then she goes a little bit mad, she dances through the cemetery, she does all sorts of things. But it's a very interesting character because I had to really think mad. I never heard of Rollin, never heard of him at all, and it was more of a pity because I wish I had seen some of his films and working with him was hysterical because. So one day, you know, on the script, sometimes I would be learning one scene, and he would come out and say, "No, we're not doing this scene now." I said, "Well, I have actually learned all the lines of this scene." No, we're doing another scene. So I had to really learn all the lines again. We're going to do your scene where you're going to be walking around and dancing, you know, by the tombs. Okay, I've learned this. Okay, what do I have to do? You're going to sing. All right, no, you're going to hum. Okay. And then he would say, nope, tomorrow we're going to actually go to the beach. You're going to be, you know, and I did have to take my clothes off in the beach. And it was cold, it was freezing cold in Calais. And, you know, and walking on those pebbles, it was freezing cold. And I would just like go, oh, okay, there's a rose, okay, the rose, lovely rose. So I had to think of the rose before, you know, instead of thinking of being too cold. And you could see my nipples go, bing! you could feel that his brain went ahead of everything. You know, anything that he was thinking about, he was just going fast. It was, you could never really sort of like catch him on something. You know, if you say something to him, if you actually had a conversation with him, and you could feel like he wasn't listening because his brain was going, you know, was turning all the time. And it was always, Rollin was one of those people that you could never know what he is going to say to you next. He will think about something, he will listen to you about something, and then he will go, yeah, okay, let's do it this way. You know, it was constantly going, constantly working all the time. You know, his brain was constantly working, and he would be in the script, and he would be there with Natalie, and he will say, "What do you think?" You know, and then he'll go and do his own thing. He'll ask you a question and say, "What do you think?" You know, and he goes and does his own thing. I mean, he was, to me, Rollin was a director I loved working with, because not only he listened to your ideas, not only he worked with you, he also would, you know, tell you what he thinks is best as much. So he directed you. He made you feel how the character should be. He made you feel more or less at ease with that character, which a lot of directors doesn't make you feel that way. And I've worked with many of them, and not many of them has made me feel that way. It's made me feel more, I mean, the director for Burke Hare, for instance, never made me feel at ease with it. I mean, I was more nervous on that set every single day when I was filming than I was at ease. And that's the way I love working with a director, making you feel at ease with the part. The part then will come into you, will just, you know, gradually take over you, and gradually will just, you know, get you into the role. Jean-Jacques Renaud, who was a cinematographer, loved my face so much, and he loved the way I looked, that he actually photographed me with, so carefully. It was just wonderful the way he made me look. It was just fabulous. And I also worked with Nathalie Perret, who worked with him for a long time. And Nathalie is a lovely lady, and she played the old girl coming through the cemetery, putting the flowers on. She also was a script supervisor on the films. Yeah, she did everything for him. You know, he trusted Nathalie completely. And Rollin even took part in it. He was so funny because he liked taking part in all his films, and he was wonderful. I mean, we worked in that Amiens, you know, at night. We worked at night in the cemetery of Amiens, and it was an enormous cemetery there. And Jean-Jacques Renaud, who was a cinematographer, actually used to bring a case of wine, you know, with him. And he would say, right, you know, let's all shout, because Jules Verne was buried there. And he said, okay, let's all shout, Jules Verne, protect us, help us. We'll take a bottle and we'll go, Jules Verne, protect us, help us. And I used to get a little bit tipsy after a little while, because I couldn't drink a bottle. But he was, and I really had a wonderful time, you know, with him. And not only, you know, that we worked from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and finished at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but we stayed in this little chateau where we filmed the wedding scene in the chateau. But we stayed there, and I was the only one who had a bathroom with hot water, whilst the others used to knock at my door every time and say, "Can we use your bathroom?" I said, "Well, of course you can." So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people coming in and out of my bathroom, having my hot water, using the hot water. But it was just great fun to work with these people. They were wonderful to work with, from the clapper loader to the people, you know, bringing the food or whatever. Just wonderful, just magic. And I think that film to me was magic. The film that I did with Rollin was the part that I wanted, because it was a part I even gave up the part that Kirk Douglas offered me in the Scalawag, which went to lovely Leslie Ann Down. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually be part of a film that was mine, that was my role, that was mine to actually do what I felt like I was doing, and my passion came through it, and that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be subtle, very subtle, because the part didn't require that, you know, a sort of sexual thing. I wanted it to be, he comes to me, and I said it to all, I said, I want him to come to me so that we embrace. As we embrace, I'm covered. That's the most important. I gave a lot of my ideas to Rollin, and Rollin gave me a lot of his ideas too, which was quite good, you know, in a way, because it was one of those things that he became more. We became more of you know, a director and an actress talking, you know, sort of working together. The boy, unfortunately, he didn't really care about the film very much. He really couldn't care less. He was a very difficult young actor to work with, because he really couldn't give a damn about, you know, anything. Fighting him was, I think he took his emotions and his frustration on me, and it was quite hard with me. The hysterical part of it was when I actually took a stick and hit him, and the stick broke in two. I did not want that stick to break, I promise you. I wanted the stick to actually be right and go bam on top of his back. But the stick broke. But it was quite hard. It was quite. He was very strong. He was a very strong boy, and it was, you know, I had to fight him quite a bit on that. He didn't like Rollin. He didn't get on with Rollin at all. He didn't like Rollin as a director. He didn't like anything on that film. He didn't really like it. He didn't have a lot to say. He would sometimes improvise, but he would say one thing that wasn't in the script, and I'm going, okay, so I improvised it, and he just didn't get on with Rollin. He just didn't get on with him at all. He didn't reckon Rollin as a director for him. Don't know why he did the film, to be very truthful with you, but apparently I hear that when somebody met him not long ago, he said he was actually fighting. There was a lot of fight in him. There was a lot of anger in him. He didn't know why the anger came through him, but it was quite a bit of it. I suppose he was a growing lad, you know, trying to find his way, wanting to do films that, you know, to make his mark, you know, and I was making my mark, and that's what I wanted. I mean, it wasn't a great vehicle for me at the time, but today it is. Today it actually you know, shows that I have done something right. I've actually put as much passion and as much heart into it as much as Rollin did. I did my own choreography because I was a ballet dancer, and I was also a jazz ballet dancer many years ago, so I did my own ballet, my own dance. There was a lot of improvisation in the script, especially when I was dancing, and through the tombs and the madness and the crawling on the pebbles. My knees were absolutely scratched afterwards, you know, when I came out of the gravel. I think it was our last scene that we did that. But my knees were red, my legs were red, my knees were red, and I felt like, oh my God, what's happened to my knees? I'm gonna be scarred. You know? And yes, the bones that, you know, we made love on top were real. They were real bones. I mean, they were actually sticking up my back and everywhere else. I improvised quite a bit into it, and Rollin actually accepted my improvisation because he thought, you know, whilst I researched a lot about madness, I researched a lot about you know, someone that can be possessed about something, and you know, from a spirit or whatever. When you're in a situation where you're in a vast cemetery, where there's no one there to actually, you know, to cry for help, things can happen to you. You can act, your mind can play a lot of tricks. I mean, even me filming with loads of people around me, I kept thinking at midnight there was going to be somebody who was going to get out of his tomb and come and haunt me. So you can imagine, you know, if that happened to me, you can imagine what happens to this girl while she's, you know, she's walking in a cemetery and alone and being shut and not knowing how to get out. So I improvised quite a bit into it, you know, through thinking how I'm going to actually bring out the skulls, you know, with the skulls in front of my face. That was Rollin's, you know, idea, you know, take the skull, put it in front of your face. Okay, put the skull in front of my face. But there was quite a lot of both of us. We worked with the ideas, you know, to have the rose in my hand and to, you know, when I shut myself into the tomb so that I go and meet my maker and meet my boyfriend at the same time. That was something that you know, he wrote in, and I just said, well, can I just, you know, whilst I'm going down, can I just shut it down on me very slowly, and before I shut it, I actually say some words, and then, you know, come down.
Tous morts. Nous vivons.
In the illustration itself, she tries to get out, but she's actually crucified. Yeah, she crucifies herself in the illustration itself. So at the end, which would have been a nice ending, actually, gory, but nice ending. I've got to tell you that the day that the film opened in Paris, that was the fair opened in Paris. The film with Marlon Brando and Mary Schneider, which was called Last Tango in Paris, opened the same night. And my ex came with me to that premiere, to my film, and he just looked at me and he goes, rubbish. And he said, I wish you were in Last Tango instead. And I thought, thank you very much. I put my heart and soul in this film, and you're telling me I'm rubbish? He said, no, you're not rubbish. The film is rubbish, but you're not rubbish. And I go, thank you very much. I loved it. So there you go. You know, just because you're a Shakespearean actor doesn't mean that you actually have to tell me I'm doing rubbish. And when you did more rubbish than I have ever done, even good films. I spoke to Jean last year, late last year I spoke to Jean, I think it was in November or December last year, and he said, oh, I'm coming over to England and I'm going to actually, there's a film Portait going on and they want me to come to England, so I'm going to come to England and we're going to actually, you know, let's have dinner and things like that. I said, absolutely, I had a long chat with him and I said, Rollin, you do not know how many people love you, and you become such a legend, and La Rose de Fer has become a cult. He was so happy to hear that, really happy. I said, there's even a blog about you, and I told him about the blog I gave. He said, well, I don't actually use computers that much. He didn't know how to use a computer. And his son was the one that used the computer for him. And he said, I don't have a computer. I don't know how to use it that well, you know. So I said, well, if you can find somebody that can show you about the blog, and I gave him the address, the IP address, and he said, I will actually look into that. And I said, well, you don't know how much of a legend you have become, and La Rose de Fer has become such a cult film. In America and everywhere else, you know, everywhere in the world, they're talking about La Rose de Fer. And so he said, "Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Well, when I get to England, to London, we'll have dinner together, and we'll have a drink, and we'll talk all about it, and all the what would he say in French? He said that le temps passé means the time passed that we did on La Rose de Fer, and he never did. He died, unfortunately. He was sick. He was very ill, and he died afterwards." Which I didn't even know he died until somebody, it was a friend of mine who wrote to me on Facebook and said, "Did you hear that Rollin died?" And I went, "What? Get out of here." I only just spoke to him last year, and he said, no, he's been very ill and he's dead. And I was devastated not to have seen him, not to have given him a hug, because this great big hand, this tall man, with great big arms around you, it made you feel so good, so wonderful, so at ease, so very, very safe in the world. I loved him very much. He was a lovely man.